This is Dating with R3PTAR, and I am R3PTAR.
And what's going on, y'all? This is your boy Jose, and this is the Conversing Vibes podcast, the place where we continue the conversation one topic at a time.
And if you don't follow me on Instagram, I am R3PTAR underscore Love Jones, R3PTAR underscore LOVEJ and we're on YouTube. YouTube. Search, which is Dating with R3PTAR, and we are on Facebook at Dating with R3PTAR, and we're on Twitch at The Litverse.
You can follow me on my personal Instagram at Mr. Gomez89. You can also follow the Conversing Vibes podcast via the Instagram at Conversing Vibes podcast, all in one, with the lovely assistance of Dating with R3PTAR and the Conversing Vibes podcast. We're here to conduct a conversation on relationships and love language.
So please state your name, age, and occupation for the fans.
My name is Kevin. I am 28. I feel as old as my back. And I am a security officer / photographer.
My name is Yanni. I am 27 years old still. And I am an admin assistant at an after-school program.
Hi, my name is Taqueena. I'm 27 and I'm an assistant teacher.
My name is Tyrell Jones. I'm 30, law enforcement.
I'm Elijah, 21. I work for stock at Champ Sporting Goods.
My name is Fernecia. I'm 23 and I'm a guest advisor with the CPJA.
My name is Jose. I'm 31 years old and I'm a program coordinator at a university in New Jersey.
So then, the Zodiac Big Three: Cancer Sun, Capricorn Moon, Aquarius Rising.
I'm a Gemini Sun, a Scorpio Rising, and a Sagittarius Moon.
Aquarius Sun, Capricorn Moon, and Libra Rising.
Pisces, Aries Moon, Libra Rising.
I'm an Aries Sun, Leo Moon, Virgo Rising.
I'm a Scorpio Sun, Sagittarius Moon, Sagittarius Rising.
Leo Sun, Virgo Moon, Gemini Rising. So by a show of hands real quick in the room, you can type it in the chat box or whoever the case. Who here is single currently? By a show of hands, who's currently single?
Single forever.
This is my hand.
Single forever.
Oh, everyone's single. Okay, so then I was going to ask who's in a relationship. That's going to be nobody.
I am with my hand. You could say I'm in a relationship with my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Praise him, Ma.
So whether you are currently in a relationship or previously been in a relationship, what is one thing that you can say right now that you've learned from that previous or current relationship that you value most?
I value highly that I didn't have before was respect.
Right.
The way Aretha sang it and the way she spelled it out is how I feel. So I say that because I just let shit go. And that's not good. Right? And you're supposed to feel valued in your relation. With that being said, I was not valued in my relationship. I was treated as a comfortable situation. So anything almost went without me, I don't want to say physically knowing, but like mentally taking a note and understanding that this is not what I'm supposed to get. I was called everything except for the name that my father gave me. Respect is very high in my caliber of things because we have to start respecting each other as well as having a level of respect for our own selves, I should say.
Communication is key. The reason why I say that is because majority of my relationships that did fail, it was no communication. If there was communication, it was a one-sided thing. I'm heavy on like speaking about how you feel at the moment, even when I know you're upset. Like, don't let me be like, yo, what's wrong with you? Like, you should just come out and be like, yo, listen, like, talk to me real quick. You know, we can have like a little conversation. Another thing is like how you expect to do anything or be anywhere without someone else knowing, like, yo, listen, man, I'm going over here, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. It's none of that either. I hate that. Communication is number one.
And in addition to communication, I would have to say comprehension, because you can talk until you're blue in the face, but if people are not talking and hearing to try to listen or understand, I should say, what you're trying to say, then it's just no point, you know? Gotta be able to comprehend what your other person is saying.
Definitely got to go with the respect part. Just put up with too much. I didn't have to put up with. I burned for it. That's it. Long story short.
Definitely one thing that I learned that I value most, accountability. Accountability is so key because you got to think about, like, yes, you have to maintain accountability for yourself, but also within the relationship as well to some degree, because, you know, what is something that you're doing, not necessarily for yourself, but what is going on in the relationship, and are we making sure that we're keeping each other accountable? You don't have to fully be accountable in some occasions for the other person, but for the sake of the relationship, being accountable for the relationship, but also making sure you're taking accountability for yourself when and where needed. So for me, accountability is something that I value most, that I've learned, and I'm still continuing to learn. I feel like we're ever learning in this process.
I agree with what everyone said, communication and respect. For me, it would have to be remaining true to yourself. When you're in a relationship, a lot of times you can easily get so wrapped into your partner that you just start to lose yourself, and you're just doing everything for them, with them, about them. And you need to make sure that you put yourself first. It doesn't matter how great this person is. You have to make sure that if your mental health is not where it needs to be, you won't be able to sustain any relationship.
When is the quote unquote right time to walk away from a relationship?
When it came to realizations in terms of speaking in terms of myself, it wasn't until I realized what was going on. I'm not saying I was oblivious, and I don't mean it in terms of oblivion. I mean it in terms of actually sitting there and understanding your pros and cons of being in this relationship. Now, understand, my relationship was pushing 5 years. I was depressed 2 of those years. So depression was not going to help me understand when the right time was to go. It had nothing to do with dick. It had nothing to do with sexual being. It's not saying it was good. I'm saying in terms of realizations. I did not realize shit that was going on. It could have been a manipulation period that I missed. But I can say the right time was when you start waking the fuck up. That can be 20 years from now with Dr. Dre and his wife, for example. It can be 6 months from now. It can be Quavo and Saweetie. They're just getting it together now. Understand, there's no particular time frame. But it's when things you feel is not right for you and it's toxic. So there's no time or like at 7 o'clock today, I'm gonna break up with my boyfriend. No, like you can't put a time limit on something unless you know that's what you're gonna do.
I'm gonna play the devil's part. So you said that there's no time limit on doing something. And for instance, you said on breaking up with someone. What if in their mind, that's all they have thinking? Because I've been in a relationship where I had to find out later on that for damn near 3 weeks, she was literally planning on how to break up with me. Like, and it was like 17 different scenarios, and I can name every last one. Like, it's weird. It depends on the person. Because me, truthfully, as you said, like, you know, you may never know when you're gonna actually do it. But for me, I feel like if there's way too many signs out there, I've told you way too many times on what I don't like and what I do like, and you still repeatedly do it, I'm going to take my time on how people would say let you down easily. But that's already because I already have it planned out.
Number one, Dr. Dre deserves more respect than that. Number one, R3PTAR. Number two, I think that the right time is when your happiness is compromised. Once your happiness is compromised, I think that's the right time to try and let it go first.
And I want to speak on that real quick, right? Because I think sometimes when we think about the concept of happiness in a relationship, let me just make this point really clear, right? When it comes to happiness, your partner, whoever you're with, is not responsible for your happiness. You are responsible for your happiness. That person that you're with should be there to add and or subtract to it, depending on whatever that dynamic is in that relationship. They're supposed to add to it, not be the source. When you make someone the source, you're giving them power that you should already have within yourself, and that takes things away that your happiness is compromised. Yeah, you know, because no one else should be responsible for your happiness, nor yourself, nor your journey of healing.
Period.
No one should be responsible for that but yourself.
What did you first say that you said my name to?
Well, first off, I do agree with you though. No one should be responsible for their happiness. I really wasn't trying to say that, but you're right. No one should be responsible. But the ultimate goal in a relationship is to be happy with the person you're with. And when you're no longer happy with that partner, and when your happiness is compromised, like your everyday happiness, I think that's when you let it go. Oh, and by the way, the first thing I said was Dr. Dre deserves a little more respect than what you're giving him. Don't do that to him.
Oh.
First of all, I did not disrespect him. I'm saying in terms of we did not know that was happening. So there's no time frame. They've been together for umpteen years, and here we are. So that's what I meant by there's no time. Boy, bye. I wasn't talking about Dr. Dre. Get it together. Get it together.
The biggest time to walk away is where you're repeatedly having one conversation way too many times. When you continue to talk about maybe one or two situations way too many times and they're not listening or like trying to understand why y'all keep having this conversation, I think that would be the perfect time. Especially if it was the last time y'all talked. Yeah, y'all should definitely part ways because, again, personal experience, the recent ex that I had, it was just the little things that pissed me off. Like I would wake up and start my day and I'm trying to mentally prepare myself for the day, and especially if I have work, and she'd be like, "Oh, why you didn't text me this morning?" Because I'm trying to get myself ready for the day. Like you can't just keep nagging me knowing that you have to do the same thing back. Like it's a phone for a reason. If I gotta text you, why you don't text me? If I gotta call you, why you don't call me? If I'm always the first one to put on my hand and try to help you, why you can't do the same thing back? Like that, it gets annoying after a while. That's a little kid game. And I'm talking about like elementary going into high school type game. Because why? We grown ass people. We should not be doing little dumb shit like that. That's annoying.
So I think what you're referring to, if I'm reading this right, it would seem that you're talking from the sense of lack of effective communication. Would that sound about right? Lack of effective communication?
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Does lack of commitment cause issues in a relationship? And if so, how?
I say hell yes, because if one person in a relationship really is taking a relationship to like the max. I'm talking about like little gifts, trying to spend time with one another. The littlest things that could bring a relationship together. If one person is doing a lot more than the other person, you should really reevaluate yourself and see what you're into. Because again, another one of my exes did something like that. It was like I pushed every day to like talk, see, and do things, and she's just nonchalantly just being there, just being a waste of energy. Because that's how I felt. It was like, what am I talking for if you're not like no type of work? Mind you, you chase after me. I didn't want you. And now that you got me, you gonna fucking take your time and no, you're not even trying to help yourself in a relationship that you wanted. You get what I'm saying? Like it's always about a one person thing that should never happen within a relationship. It's always a give and go. You get what I'm saying? Like it's too much for one person to really take a relationship correctly. That's how I feel about it.
Let's say that he was so persistent in terms of I can be in Elijah's situation, but I didn't know if I wanted the guy yet. So he was highly persistent, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. Fine. No communication whatsoever. Right after I said yes. Nothing. Not even a Batman signal. Not even, Superman flying to say, Lois, here I am. Nothing. I heard nothing from him. So after I would say like a month, because we were still learning each other, I hit him up and I was like, well, since I'm not hearing from you, I guess we not together. And all these emotions start popping up from him. Like, what do you mean? We are together. And I'm like, well, I haven't heard from you. In that regard, I felt like, why even try if you're not going to commit to what you persistently and consistently did? Don't come for me unless I send for you. But I didn't even send for you to even do this, but you sent for me and I obliged to it, and here we are, you not saying shit to me. I got a fucking problem. So don't be consistent and persistent if you're not gonna keep on to it. Don't talk to me unless you're really about it. Master P said it better. And that's on facts.
She's 100% right. So what I'm about to say is this. It's going to coincide with what she was saying. You can't truly be successful at anything without commitment. So if you don't really commit to a relationship, it's not going to work. Lackluster effort is always going to give you lackluster results. So it's like anything. If you go to school, if you don't commit to your academics, then you're not going to get what you need out of it. Or if you half-ass it, you're going to get half-ass results. If you half-ass a diet, then you're going to get half-ass results with your body. I mean, with anything, if you're not 100% committed to it, You'll never be great at it. So the same thing with a relationship. I think it's just plain and simple as that. So her situation didn't work just now because he was half-assed with it. So therefore, you got exactly what was put out. You get what you put out there.
So before we started today's recording, everyone here had taken the love languages quiz. For those that may or may not know what we're talking about here, I'm gonna run it down real quick, real briefly on what is considered as the 5 love languages. Okay, now those 5 love languages consist of acts of service, words of affirmation, receiving gifts, quality time,
Physical touch.
Based on those 5, it is supposed to determine, how is it that you give and or reciprocate love, whether that's in relationships and sometimes even in friendships. So based on the love languages quiz, it gave you a primary love language, right? So based on that primary love language that the quiz gave you, do you feel that your primary love language reflects you? So when you answer this question, tell us what you found to be your primary love language, and if you feel that it reflects you.
Quality time was my primary one, and it was the same one last time. However, it went up. It reflects because I like to be around the person either I'm with. It could be a relationship, it could be a friendship, it could be a situationship, it could be any ships on the American soil that I like to be in that I have to have quality time for. So yes, it does reflect me.
For me, mine was acts of service, which was at the top, 37%. So initially my thought was that I was going to get quality time as number 1. But when I thought about it, as much as I love spending time with my partner, I also love, it's just something about knowing that a person cares for you. I could spend a whole lot of time with you, but unless you're actually doing something for me, I kind of have a sense of comfortability within the relationship. I could spend time with a friend every single day, and when I'm really going through life, knowing that they're there for me means a lot. It makes sense to me why acts of service was number 1.
We have so far quality time as someone's number 1, and we have acts of service as someone's number 1.
My top was 33% quality time. When I'm in a relationship, I like to do things like, it could just be just chilling in a house or going somewhere new. Like, I like to spend time with my significant other. It makes, as the Pisces in me, the greatness, I study people. So like I learn their habits, good and bad, and how they operate through physically being with them. So like, if I know that, trying to avoid upsetting the other person as much as possible. So in order for you to do that, obviously you gotta be with them as much as possible. Like, you know that person at this time doesn't like to be bothered, or this person doesn't like that. This person doesn't like that type of person. So like, you know what to expect. You're not caught off guard in a sense. So for me, as a person who likes to study people and their habits, and who likes to believe that, I know people, quality time definitely would be my number 1 thing. And it definitely does reflect me.
So my love language was quality time. I don't think it was 25%. It reflects me because I go through bipolar depression, like, severely. And I feel like if I'm not around you, or I'm not even sensing your vibe anyway, like, even if it's through text or just physical touch, then I already feel like you already given up on me. Because with me, it's all about patience and just putting up with the hard times that I go through. So it's like, if you're not giving off your vibe that I can really keep being around you, it makes no sense for me. Like, I don't really care for gifts at all. That's not my thing, because I want to feel like you actually want me for me and not the things that I buy you. And if you can't respect that, we going on dates, me doing little things that involve money, if that's not appreciated enough, then how can I even trust you to be in my space? Like, if I feel like my space is being disrupted in any way, because it already is disrupted by myself, if I feel like someone else is disrespecting it, then it makes no time. So like, yeah, it reflects me like a lot.
For me, my primary love language was acts of service. And I feel like that hit it spot on, but more so, I think that reflects the way that I show, not really the way I rather receive. Like, I do like receiving acts of service, but for me personally, I feel like I show my love to people by doing things like constantly all the time. I think my second highest more so reflects quality time, more so reflects the way I rather receive.
My primary words of affirmation, that was like 37%. Sometimes they say actions speak louder than words, but I think that for me, the actual word, it's like a motivational thing. So I like to hear, if you're satisfied with something I'm doing, or even if I'm not satisfied, you know what I'm saying? You got to put, gas in the car for it to run. So sometimes, for me, it's just knowing that you care, knowing that you love me, knowing that I'm doing the right things by you, by myself. That goes a long way with me, more than gifts or anything else.
It would seem that the recurring theme, with the exception of the one that had their primary as words of affirmation, we value that our love language is either acts of service and quality time. Just to touch quick for the audience, in case they didn't know what the other two were, we have physical touch. So physical touch essentially is that, you are a person that loves to receive hugs, that you just feel a form of, like, you feel a warmness in your heart whenever someone hugs you, those little walking hands, those, public displays of affection, PDA, so on and so forth, so that's physical touch. And then obviously receiving gifts is essentially, it's not necessarily the amount of what the gift is, but the thought itself. So you are the type of person that likes to receive gifts and feels like, oh my God, like you receive a Louis bag or something from a Louis bag all the way up to something as small as a simple little ring. Any type that it is, it's just a thought that it counts. So that's what receiving gifts are. So I want to provide context to the other two that were not mentioned in this chat.
In terms of like your relationship or your last one, or if you have one, what have you, or friendships too, has your current top love language changed since your first relationship or friendship? For example, at least I can give an example for myself. Both relationships I felt was keen to me. The top thing was quality time in both situations. Now, in the instances, and I'm guessing for one of them, his quality time was higher than mine at the time. So that was challenging when I thought I was the one that needed the time. It was more him who needed the time. But has it changed? No. Quality time is high for me still, since the first relationship I considered a relationship.
For me, because my last two real relationships, well, let me say last three, were different in a sense. Like my first real relationship as an adult, my girlfriend actually ended up living with me in my, with me, my dad. So that was like, we literally had quality time every day. What I ended up having to do, and what my dad had to do, we changed our routine, our everyday routine, to better fit her into our everyday life. I would say the relationship after her, it was still heavy on quality time, but she didn't live with me. That's one. And two, I pretty much compromised a lot for quality time because it was just so much. I wanted just to see her. She wanted to see me too. So it was like a kind of a mixed bag of things. We try to do whatever we can, try to see each other as much as possible. I would say compared to those two relationships, one was more, we went to school together and we ended up living together. So quality time was always there. So I would say the second relationship made me appreciate quality time more than the first relationship, because when you have that much quality time, and depending on the situation of how much and how you're getting the quality time, definitely could make you depreciate it a bit, or just not value it so much, or take it for granted. And then when you don't have it in your next relationship, it's like, nah, I don't like this. like motherfucker, I need to see you every other day, at least 3 times a week, something. It's got to be something. It's got to be something. Now, as for my last relationship, the quality time was there, but it wasn't really there. It was again, I would just compromise for whatever little minutes or an hour that I would be able to see that person. We didn't really do anything. It was just okay, I got to see you. I had to pick you up from work, but I got to see you. The quality time always mattered. But compared to the first relationship where, I had 100% quality time. Like we went to school together, we went home together. We slept in the same bed. We woke up together, went back to school together, came back home together. So it was kind of like 7 days a week, damn near 19 hours a day. That can be a lot. And you could take it for granted. Because trust me, you don't know what that feeling like when you live with somebody. Living with your significant other is definitely different, especially when you're not living in the household that's meant for y'all two. You're living in a household that's really meant for you and someone else.
For me, with my first relationship, the acts of service was definitely coming from both parties, both of us. With my last relationship, it definitely increased. I was mainly the one doing acts of service. I like to do what I like to receive. So I don't just like to receive and not give. If I'm seeing that I'm needed in an area, and it's not necessarily asked for, I will be there. You need support, I will be there, hands down. Supporting someone and being there is super important for me. So I would just say it increased for me as my relationships have gone on throughout the years from my first one.
That helps, because then that'll particularly make better sense when you did that quiz, because then you'll realize like how many things has changed. I'm not saying that you did this quiz before. I'm not saying that you did, but in terms of how people acted and how people functioned, it's in terms of you got to see what that looked like within yourself first. I got the best test in America because I started using it on potentials and guys I just, hung out with or talked to as a friend. And the highest one right now with those was physical touch. A tangible item that I couldn't give them because I wanted to just spend time and sit there and look them in the face. See the difference? I got to understand what the hell was going on. Like, he's laughing because now I know his, for example, like, we just talked and got to know each other, and now I know his affirmations. Knowing that he loves my motor mouth. But now we know.
For me, that has never changed. Words of affirmation, no matter what relationship I've been in. The girls I was with, like, look, it wouldn't hurt you sometimes if I'm doing something good, let me know I am. Because if I'm not doing something good, you're gonna let me know I'm not. You know what I'm saying? So it's never changed for me. I want to know that I'm satisfied with me because I'm a pleaser. But also, I please because I also want to be happy and pleased and hand in hand. So it's never changed for me. It's really always been affirmation. It's physical touch. And it's always been the same for me. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like physical touch goes hand in hand with words of affirmation because physical touch does nothing but reassure you that your partner really is all into you. Holding my hand or a back rub or, hey, babe, you good? It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like, oh, she really, she into me. Like she really into me like I'm into her.
I mean, yeah, definitely words and touch do go hand in hand. That is a fact. Nobody knew. Fuck what you heard. But, have you ever had to diminish your top love language to appeal to your partner?
Unfortunately, recently, I feel like to some extent I've had to diminish it, just being mindful of the other person. But I soon came to realize that, it wasn't healthy for me, to diminish my primary love language, because sometimes when we think about maintaining and sustaining a relationship, we think, okay, what can I do in the interim to, find a common place? And I feel like sometimes when we do that, it would mean like either you have to diminish or lower a sense of yourself in order to cater to that person's mantra, that person's level. But I feel like if you have to do that, then that would raise a red flag. Diminishing your primary love language, you should do it if you feel like it's going to help the relationship. But if you feel like the effort, which is another key word here, if you feel like the effort's not being reciprocated in light of you diminishing your primary love language, then the question is, why did you do it in the first place if they're not going to reciprocate the same energy you put into diminishing your primary love language?
You have to go through it to know that. For me, I wish I would have lowered my love language for my second relationship because we got attached a lot. So, yeah, you're supposed to get attached in a relationship, but it's like when you become dependent on spending a lot of your love language with that person, it can become detrimental, especially if you compromise a lot to make that love language happen. Especially for people who love quality time, people who love quality time as their number one love language, we go out of our way 9 times out of 10 to make it happen. And it can be really good at times, and it can be really bad. And it's not even so much, if the effort is being reciprocated, it's just so much that you become dependent on wanting to be with that person every day or every other day or how many times a week or whatever. You have to lower your love language in order to have longevity in your relationship. No matter.
I disagree.
I feel like
I disagree on that, but good point though. But I disagree on that.
When it comes to your love language, it's going to be a little different because your love language is more of affirmation and physicality. So obviously you're going to want that because you can get that any time of the day. It could be a simple text, a call. Yo, babe,
Okay,
call me to speak about for like a calm 30 minutes, whatever way will be, and we'll talk about it and all that. So like for you, because our love languages are kind of not really so much a complete opposite, but there are things that don't really go hand in hand when it comes to your love language and my love language. For you, it's like, you can feel strongly about that. For me, to have longevity in a relationship, for me, as a person who loves quality time as much as possible, it definitely can be detrimental.
I understand that.
I can at least piggyback off of Kevin because I'm going to say my last relationship, for example, I had to calm down my quality time because I did not always see him. Like I tell you, I got to see you every weekend just so that meant shit to that relationship, okay? And so it might have seemed like I was hanging out with the person because, you guys, I would post him or whenever I could or whenever it was cool and feasible. That was only after months of not seeing him. The longest I've not seen him was almost 6 months. So understand, he wasn't even in the army or nothing like that. It was because he was that busy per se. And I put it in quotes because, no, I'm dead ass. You don't believe me? Some people in the chat know. They were there. They saw it. And so there were times I wouldn't see him almost 6 months because his job was hard. His family was always in a rut. There was always something negative going on around him, hindered the relationship. How did I make it almost 5 years? Only the Lord only knows, because I don't know how that even worked. But when I did have the time with him, it was like weekends, took weeks, vacations. We tried. We did everything under the sun to keep the quality time as much we could, as much as it would appease to me. But however, I still had to diminish it at some point because it was not the greatest in town with the relationship and the circumstances that was going on. So yes, I had to diminish my quality time. It never changed as to what my love language was, but I had to diminish it to appease to my partner.
Do you feel that was compromising of you though?
In my chart, I have a tendency to appease to whomever I'm with. So if there's something that he wants to do, I will forever compromise. So if that's something that happens, for example, if I'm diminishing something I like to do, it's in me to do without knowing until I have the realization. Goes back to time frames. There's no time when you figure that shit out. It's all connected.
Right.
You talk to me, every question is connected. There's no time to figure that shit out, but it happens when I don't know, and when I do, I'm all fucked up. So compromising happens when I don't realize it.
For me, in response to your question, I actually shook my head and said no. And then I thought about those ancient niggas. And then I realized I did diminish a love language. So one of them was pretty much traumatized by his past relationships, and he did not want me to touch him whatsoever. For me, I love to cuddle. I love for us to be snuggled up with each other. And that was something that I had to decrease in order for him to feel comfortable with me. once he got to that point, that's all he wanted to do. In my last, not so much a relationship, we were dating. He definitely was not comfortable with the touching either. So once again, physical touch was a quality that I had to also diminish. For him, he doesn't open up quick, and his love language was quality time. So as long as we were spending time with each other, that's pretty much all that mattered to him. But while we were spending time, I felt disconnected because we were not hugged up on each other. You know, if I gave him a hug, it was almost like, you know, that hug where you don't want to really touch nobody. You give them that one arm hug. That's what the hugs were like. And
Not the one arm hug.
yes, it was. Yes.
The bro hug, damn, the friend zone
My
hug.
mother calls it the side hug. She said, "You know I don't do no side hugs. Give me a hug."
That's the I don't fuck with you hug. And that's what I had to deal with for a little bit until I started coming over more often. And, you know, I got him opened up. When you have to diminish, so my thought on it is like diminishing a love language has to do a lot with what that person has experienced in their past relationships. Also, not even just relationships, because a lot of people are actually abused and they have trauma from that. They're not actually able to do anything with their partner because of that. You have to be very aware and know the type of person that you're going to be with, to know like, okay, if I'm diminishing one or two traits or qualities of mine, is this going to be a deal breaker for me? Because it's going to take much more for the person to open up versus for you to be able to, you know, show your acts of service or your words of affirmation or your physical touch. So that was just my opinion on that.
For me, it's a little stranger because not only am I the youngest in this group, but I can say I've been through all 5 different languages and within 3 different relationships. So the very first one, I was a love language of words of affirmation. And it was like, for me, it was like, I wanted to know like every moment, like, yo, you're doing great. You know, you're being a really great boyfriend, or you're being a really great friend. Like, you know, just keep doing your thing. Don't make sure like you don't lose sight on things that you want to get done or what's more important for you. And then it went from that to physical touch, to where like she didn't have to say like, yo, listen, you doing great, you doing this, you doing that. It was like, you touched me, and I was like, bet, I know your vibe already. And then it went from that to like just quality time, because it was like, I didn't really care for you to touch me. It's just, as long as you know, as long as I can feel your vibe right there in the room, I'm fine. Then it went from that to constantly ask me to, yes, that.
Okay.
It went from like, it wasn't like a me 100%. I say it's like, in that relationship, it was like 25%, because I really wasn't a guy for like gifts and shit like that. Like, I really wasn't at all fond of like, you know, receiving gifts. Like, I'd rather give you gifts, but then every other week or maybe every other 2 weeks, I give you a gift. But then now it turns out every week you want a new gift. That throws me off, because then now it's like, bro, what the hell? And we're from that to like, it just was silent. Like, I just threw myself out. And then going into like my last relationship or whatever, it was actually a complete backwards thing, to where I had the quality time at last, but it was like, it wasn't worth putting up more for the relationship, because for me, quality time is a big thing. And if that's not the first thing that, like, I have no problems changing my love language for anybody. But like, if mine is not met first, then it's like, what more do you need in this relationship? And like I said, the last one was where like the quality time was at the end. It wasn't worth it, because you want gifts every other week to you touching me nonstop, which I have no problem with. And then it went from touching me to like, I'm gonna say words of affirmation, because it was like I would have to force her to say things to me. to make me feel like I'm doing my job correct. Then it went from us nonstop talking about that conversation to quality time being at the end. And it was so bad because it was like I had forced you to like tell me if I'm doing great. Even though I should already know I'm doing great, I had to force you to tell me I'm doing great. Now you want to spend every time with me. I really don't feel like we should kept that going. Like, and that was my fault for keeping it going for that long. Because, like I say, once quality time comes around, that's my space. That's my everything right there. But if it comes last, there's no point at all.
Have we ever diminished them? I think we all can say we have, right? The key word in all this to me has been diminish. Diminish is to like decline or reduce, right? To lessen the value of. And to compromise is more of an agreement or a settlement. I think it's important that we all don't diminish our love language and instead choose to sometimes maybe compromise it. It's a big difference because if you diminish your love language for somebody, it's not going to work because you're never going to be happy because they're never going to adhere to what it is you need. It's called your love language for a reason, which means that you need it. That's what you need in order for your relationship to survive, both parties, right? So if you compromise your love language, so if someone says quality time is my number one thing, it's cool to compromise that sometimes. Sometimes y'all may not spend quality time. It's okay to compromise that sometimes. But when you diminish it, then that means that you go from compromising to just accepting that y'all may never ever see each other. And then when it gets to that point, it's not going to work. When someone cannot give you or provide your love languages or your primary love languages, you're going to get it from somebody who can. And that's just what it's going to be because there's somebody out there that can provide your love languages. That's why you date people and get to know people. But what one person can't do, the next one will. So instead of diminishing our love languages, I think we all need to focus on working on compromising it, but not, diminishing it because that's never going to work. We'll all be single forever if we keep on diminishing our love language that we know works for us. If I know that Adidas sneakers work for me, then I don't need to diminish that by buying Nike for somebody else. It's not going to work. That diminish word is really a big word. And I think there's a fine line between diminishing it and compromising your love language for the greater good.
You had every right to say that. Like, that's why I said it that way. Like I said, it still ended up me compromising at some point, but I still turned it down for someone else.
That is a very good point. No, thank you for that, Z, because, distinguishing between diminishing and compromising really goes a long way.
It's a lot. That's why I always use that word diminish, because at some point we've done something to turn down something to make somebody else feel good. We may not realize it until we sit there and think about it.
Period.
We've done it at some point. And if not, I envy you.
Do you feel that toxic traits can be developed by one's love language? And if so, how?
What did I
Yeah.
tell you in the last chat?
Yeah, it definitely does.
A rape case waiting to happen.
Yes, it does. Automatically does. Because again, people can be complacent. Again, there's always the honeymoon stage where you're doing everything. You're spending as much time as possible, doing the gift giving, all happy-go-lucky in the first month or two in the relationship. And then when things start to calm down, you start to settle and evaluate your relationship as a whole, there's got to be, it's got to kind of have to step back and do less things because that's just, again, longevity in a relationship. You're not going to keep going 200% honeymoon stage for the rest of your life. It don't work that way. People compromise. People do less things and, think about other things that, are more important to them for longevity in a relationship. But to the other person is like, no, just keep doing what you're doing. But I want to do something that I know is better for us. No, just keep doing what you're doing. It don't work that way. People change and people have to grow out of certain things. Things happen. Like there's that thing where it's like, you don't do the things they used to do when to get me, but I do things differently to try to keep you. So there's like a big difference in the getting you process to keeping you process. And when it comes to love languages, that is a thing. People, love languages tend to change as the relationship gets older. Not everybody is spring chickens and can be fucking every day for like years on end.
I think it definitely can. And speaking from a personal standpoint, again, mine is acts of service. And I realize that sometimes what I'll do is I'll like kind of go to the extreme where it ends up being negative. So like, I'm just so used to doing things to show like that love for someone that it'll be like, for instance, down to my last, but I'm still trying to do something. To the point where you're just kind of like taking from your own pot of happiness just to try to put into somebody else's and not realizing until the last minute that like it's negatively impacting yourself. So in that aspect, I think it definitely can become toxic where you just gotta chill out on it for a little.
Right, because when you think about acts of service, what it could be reciprocated as yeah, you like acts of service, you like people doing things for you, but then it gets to a point where it's like, do you become codependent of people doing things for you in order to feel that form of affection? It can be perceived that way. Think about physical touch and quality time. Too much of it could be that you're too clingy. Possibly. It could be perceived as much. When you think about words of affirmation, it's like too much of it can be like you're deflecting issues going on. It's like you're always saying words of affirmation, words of affirmation, words of affirmation. It's like too much of it could be like, are you really just saying that just to deflect from the issues that were going on in a relationship? Or do you genuinely feel that way? Because sometimes when you have issues in a relationship, if someone's love language is words of affirmation, sorry, T, I'm putting that out there. But, you know, just thinking about like how sometimes words of affirmation could be like you're deflecting something in that moment. It's like, oh, well, don't matter because I still think you're beautiful, or X, Y, and Z. And then when we think about, well, gifts, too much gift giving, guess what? It could be you give so much gifts. It's like, oh, can you only talk through gifts? Can you only show me love through just gifts? No matter whether it's too small or too big, it's like it becomes a bit much. So it then creates it where the expectation of, oh, you gave me this on the first date. Oh, you gave me this in the first year of the relationship. Now they're always going to want more and more and more and more and more. So then that becomes a bit of a toxic trait. So thinking about it from that aspect.
Now, everybody pretty much hit the nail on the coffin on that one. It can be toxic. Too much of anything can be toxic. So I think everybody pretty much got that right.
And it's a rape case waiting to happen. I'm just saying.
When someone's not speaking to your love language, how would you address it?
The way I used to do it, right? And this is the Scorpio talking now. So I would get really irate. Like I would become Hulk, but just not punching a person. I just toss a whole room upside down because it's like the first time I'm calm and collected. I'm telling you, listen, like, you know, talk to me, you know, let me know, or like just come over. You don't even gotta talk to me. Like bring your ass into my house and just vibe there. And then I'm not hearing none of that. Like that 6-month period that G said, that would not slide with me because it's like, bro, what are you doing? Now I'm gonna stand maybe like a month or two, maybe, but 6, that's a dub. Because for me is, all right, I'm texting you, I already know your vibe. Now I want to actually feel your vibe. If I can't do either, that's a red flag. And that would get me mad because, bro, why are you doing that to me? Like, because now you got me saying, hey, thinking the worst. Instead of thinking the worst, I'm thinking you're doing the worst. And it's like, why is that? Why are you doing that? But now, the way I handle it now is, all right, so you don't want to come spend time with me? That's fine. You can go about your business. Because now it makes no sense for me to even talk. Since you don't want to be around me, mine was quality time. If it's none of that, then I don't even want to hear your words after that, because what makes the sense? Like, there's some people in my life now that I tell them like, yo, listen, you know, I love to be around you, like, you know, or like just find your vibe, you know, let me know, or if you can, you know, tell me, you know, link up with me or do stuff like that, you know, and I'll be fine. That's how I get down normally. But when there's other people that don't even like hit you up or like waiting for you to hit them up, it's like, what is the problem? Why are you doing that? Like, and I'm so glad I've grown out of that mentality of like, I have to get upset for you not to match my love language, because it's like, I don't really need to be upset no more. I already know that you don't want to be around me or like even try to vibe with me. So like, what makes the point of you being here? Like, what makes the point of you just staying around me? I don't really need you if you're not going to try to accept what I got given.
Leave.
Oh,
I'll say this at least. I don't know what my recent relationship love language was for him. I don't know. Because at the time I was not speaking to him when we first did it together. I'm guessing his was like words of affirmation. And I wouldn't have known if he didn't tell me. Because it's not that he seeked validation. It's because he didn't get none in the house that I'm guessing he needed it from someone. that appreciated of who he was. So with mine being quality time and his being, I'm guessing words, it was hard to find out when he had so much shit going on, but kept saying he was okay. Elijah, you may speak like a Scorpio, but I dated one. I know we talk about it all the time, and you say he not.
When I say like I'm a Scorpio, so my sign basically, if you don't speak on your on like how you feel, if you don't try to put out there how you feel, then it ain't never gonna be anything to us, especially if there's ones that's been hurt, as from my experience. And the reason why I say the person that she's talking about isn't is because 9 times out of 10, I've met other Scorpios besides him. And I say that for sure because we all come to agreement every time. Like, yo, listen, we speak the very first moment. And if we don't speak very first moment, we make it clear to where we need your help. And especially when it comes to a relationship standpoint. And for that person, not jacking him at all, because if you guessing how we feel, that's an issue. And especially for us, because that means we're not either preaching it out there big enough. You're right. And not hearing that what you said, you're right. But I make sure that my body language and like my aura comes off as like, yo, I need help. You know what I'm saying? And probably in his case, he was trying to do that, but did it in the wrong way. Right. She just said the answer. It wasn't. So that means he wasn't doing it in the right way to where
He didn't want
she
to tell
felt
me.
it. You get what I'm saying?
Tell me. No, he blatantly told me in my face he didn't want to tell me. There's a difference. You didn't have the
See,
context.
that's
I didn't mean to say it like
exactly
that
why
to
I
you.
don't
I
get
feel like I was
him.
about to fight you just now, and I apologize. I chose violence in that
Oh
segment.
no.
So what I'm gonna say is he truly told me in my face he did not want to tell me. He just did not feel like telling me. Told me that blatantly in my face.
And that's why I feel like when it comes to Scorpios, we have it 100% different, especially me, but since I got a rising up Sagittarius, which I'm going to say that's the only thing I like about them is that they know how to share their feelings. That's the blatant thing that I only like about them. They know how to share their feelings. Just like us Scorpios, we share our feelings no matter how we try to put it out there, whether it's body language, actually talking, trying to buy you gifts, but also trying to creep in a conversation, just being around you. That's how we get down. That's how we normally get down. I'm not speaking just for me. I'm talking about other Scorpios that I also know because I've had so many different encounters with different Scorpios. And for him to jack our sign, I don't claim him. That's what I mean by that.
He is not included in the segment of the Scorpio. So I understand you don't claim him, and I knew that's what you were going to say. That's why I said it for you.
But you persevere and overcame, Queen.
I think I just agree with G. I'm just leaving. I think that's probably why things don't last very long my way, because my way or the highway, basically. So if you're not showing you that, then what am I doing? Nothing.
For me, I communicate. I will voice how I'm feeling and what you're not doing. I will give you the chance to fix it and get better at it. I like to give people a chance. So, and I like to give people time. Not too much time because, people like to abuse that. But I like to give chances and I like to give time. So I will communicate and let you know how I feel. If at that point you are not doing anything, I'm out. Like, you're wasting my time. I communicate. Everyone's biggest issue is communication. So now that I'm doing that and you're failing to meet me halfway, what's the problem?
If that is not the truth, say it again for those in the back. Say it again for those in the back. No, I think we pretty much covered a lot tonight, and I want to thank everyone here for really speaking your piece and most importantly, feeling vulnerable enough to be in this space to really speak your piece on relationships and your love life. Y'all the real MVPs tonight, so y'all should give it up for y'all because y'all came in this space and y'all did y'all thing. You know what I'm saying?
Putting the party thing. There it is. If you don't follow me already on Instagram, I'm R3PTAR_Love Jones, R3PTAR _LOVEJ1EZ. And we're on YouTube. Search, which is Dating with Reptar. And we're on Facebook at Dating with Reptar. And we're on Twitch, Twitcherify, Twitcheroony, which is at The Litverse.
And you can find me on Instagram, both personal at Mr. Gomez89. Again, that is at Mr. Gomez89. And you can follow the Conversing Vibes podcast also on Instagram at Conversing Vibes podcast, all together in one. Everything right now on Instagram.
Ew. Deuces, friends. Deuces.
And you know the vibes.